Hello, welcome to the Jericho Comedy Podcast. I'm Connor McReynolds, and on this week's episode, I'm speaking to two men without whom this would just be called the podcast. They are Jericho Comedy, Harry Househam, and Mr. Saturday Night, Alex Farrow. Alex and Harry met on the Oxford comedy scene about 5 years ago and quickly identified the gap in the market for a really top comedy night. They worked together to start Jericho Comedy, which has grown and grown into the multi-award-winning comedy night we all know and love. They both bring different ideas and approaches to Jericho Comedy, but that's what makes the range of shows from stand-up to improv, site-specific to big theatres so exciting. I'll be chatting to the guys about all things Jericho pre-lockdown, during lockdown, and hopefully what things will look like coming out of it. You'll also be hearing a clip from our wonderful charity partner Oxfordshire Mind, and you'll be hearing a set recorded live at Jericho Comedy. But right now, here are the men themselves, Alex Farrow and Harry Househam. Alex Farrow and Harry Househam of Jericho Comedy, how the devil are you?
Good. Yeah, generally doing all right. All things considered. Yeah. Good. Alex Farrow, does Harry speak for both of you?
He speaks for both of us.
You're both well. Well, I'm delighted to hear it. You guys, for the listeners' perspective, you guys are sat next to each other for this conversation.
It's very important that everybody knows we are socially distanced, Connor.
Yes, that is true. You're a solid 2 meters away from each other, and I'm about 2 miles away from you on the other side of Oxford.
You needed that. You requested that.
I am taking this whole social distancing thing too damn far.
It's 2 meters for everyone else and 2 miles for Connor McReynolds.
Guys, how are you feeling? We're speaking late September. We've done the last of our outdoor and drive-in and a kind of a mad summer of shows. How are you guys feeling at the end of all that?
Well, I've still got 2 drive-ins to do.
No, that's true.
I knew you were going to say this. Yeah, I'm just all about the honesty, Connor. Wait, hang on. You've got one tomorrow as well. I'm driving you there. You're not done yet, mate.
Am I not on both?
Well, yes, indeed, correct. Yes.
So really, I shouldn't be so blasé about the end of all this.
You're doubly not finished.
Well, okay, Harry Househam. You've reached the end of all of these shows. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I think it's a bittersweet feeling. They took so much work to get to a place where everything was safe and comfortable for everyone. So it was a lot of work going into it. So there's like an amount of relief in that regard. But they were also just like really fun. I remember packing down from the last drive-in at Millett's Farm. Just kind of it was the closest feeling I've had for a few years to like at the end of doing a little run of shows. Like I know if you're doing a theatre show and a little play or something, and you kind of there's this kind of melancholy at the end of sort of like, oh, we don't get to do this again. So I think that's a true mark that I had such a good summer. And I think as well, it's going to hold a really dear place in my heart for like, that's the summer we did drive-in and outdoor shows. And I think some of them will probably stick, and we'll probably repeat some of them in the future, even if it's just a kind of nostalgic throwback to this weird year that we've had.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Alex, obviously it was so new for all of us, and it was, these gigs were kind of born out of necessity. It was
especially new for me. It was new for all of us, but you showed how really new it was. Oh, watching you, Alex, it was like watching somebody who'd never done it before.
How did you feel going into it? Like, how did you think you would feel about performing the Cars? Were you reticent in any way, or was it something that you were really keen to do?
Well, certainly keen to do it, but also, with all the normal apprehensions, right? I'm sure, like, this is something I think we probably all share, right? We're all super picky about the type of live gigs that we do, right? I don't really I want to have a good time, right? I don't want to, I'm here for a good time, not a long time, as I always say under all circumstances. And so, car takes away many of the things that are great about live performance, right? You're almost watching it again on a screen, right? Because there's the windshield in front of you. And so
Yeah.
it was good whenever people would kind of get out of their cars. Unless there was lightning, in which case they might have died. So it's probably good they stayed in there then. But other than the time that they were nearly killed by lightning, it was great that they were out.
Yeah. I mean, there were so many kind of new things for us this summer. I mean, obviously Harry as well. You were right at the forefront of organizing the online stuff we did with Next Up earlier in the summer, which it was such a great success. It was such an enjoyable weekend of comedy. But again, a totally different thing to what we'd been doing before.
Yeah, completely. Well, I mean, I think to begin with, we were both sort of quite hesitant about doing online stuff because we thought it was just a sort of pale imitation of live. Is it's so different if the audience can be sat there in their own homes and have to if they can just turn off at any point because they're bored or just want to go to the toilet, or it's not got the same danger as being there at a live show, which even like drive-ins and outdoor shows, like there's something so much more spontaneous and electric about the atmosphere because it's so live. It doesn't feel like it's just any other show on a screen. So we were definitely very hesitant to begin with, but I think also when digital shows had been going for so long, we also wanted to try it. We wanted to dip our toes in the water and say, yeah, let's do some online shows. And I think that's why the online weekend festival with Next Up was a great opportunity. It was really nice to partner with Next Up. They're a really great streaming service, and they were lovely to work with. And then just host a kind of weekend of events as a sort of experiment to see what did work, what didn't work. Host some stand-up shows, some improv shows, some sort of panel shows and game shows, as well as people's podcasts. So I think it was a steep learning curve for what does and what doesn't work. I think most of it did, and it was great fun and raised some money for Mind. So I think I would have regretted not doing any digital shows, but I feel like I definitely satisfied my own appetite for doing them with that festival.
Yeah, Alex, you were initially very... I remember you just didn't really want to get into the online stuff. And in the end up, we sort of coaxed you, and you did end up hosting a few of the things on the online thing. How did that experience compare, or was it just not comparable with live performance, even to cars and stuff?
I think it's most comparable to like very small audience gigs, I think. And so like a very small kind of Edinburgh Fringe Festival room can sometimes have some of the same vibes. Partly because the format we did, you can sort of see a handful of people on your screen. And so I think with a lot of online comedy, the normal, as I've watched more of it, I've watched quite a lot of it now, like online live streamed comedy, it's different to like recorded stand-up comedy with a live audience. I think many of the stand-up-y rhythms sound really, really weird. And so, Chelsea Birkby was in an online comedy final recently.
Yes. She came runner-up. Woo!
Runner-up, yeah, indeed.
Chelsea!
Very cool.
One of the things that was so, I think, pleasing about her performance was she's a fabulous stand-up, how she modified her own methods of performance to suit the medium, right? So she picked a much more like conversational style, so less of the how we're all doing, but more of almost more of a YouTube style. She was very good at using images as well to land extra jokes. I thought that was particularly good, partly because so few people on the online comedy competition that she was in, as well as people did, were rarely using some of those extra things that you can do with the format.
Yeah.
So I think as the Zoom gigs have sort of kind of continued, people have found a slightly different way of doing them. And I think that's really cool.
Is it something, obviously, as things stand, we've got really exciting plans for shows, live shows in front of an audience over autumn and winter. Do you guys feel that we'd be better placed if things were to go south again and gigs were cancelled? Do you think we would have a lot of lessons learned from that digital stuff to maybe give ourselves a chance of doing some really exciting online stuff if needed?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think we're always going to want to do gigs. And if we have our hands tied behind our backs by restrictions to say that we can only do online stuff, I'm certainly going to go back to it. I enjoyed the challenge of having to try and work out what formats or what shows would or could work digitally. And whilst I didn't have the hunger or the drive to do like stand-up stuff, I really enjoyed like the play at home game show that we did and the space mission as well. I mean, it's essentially just me sitting down with a green towel around my head pretending to be a robot while people at home pretend to be in spaceships. But that really satisfied a lot of the improviser in me and a lot of the host, being able to play a character as well. So I definitely had to adapt, but yeah, I think definitely a lot of lessons learned from the shows that we have done. And I think like any show we do, the venue should always suit the show that it's in. And the same thing for digital shows. The format that you're using should suit the show that you're doing. So I think definitely not just cramming in formats or types of comedy that we've done before, but making sure that they suit the format or the venue that we're in.
Yeah, 100%. Harry, you touched on something kind of interesting there that I want to pick up on. Obviously, Jericho Comedy as a sort of a production company and as an events kind of organization, we do so much different stuff. We do, all the exciting outdoor stuff that we've done and some of the site-specific shows, a lot of theme shows in museums, but also the main split of our shows, all comedy. It's either stand-up or improv. The venue may change, but they're stand-up or improv. And Harry, you really lead those kind of improv formats. And Alex, you're much more of a stand-up man. We've all obviously gone across those divides. We've all been involved with all the different shows. But Harry, your background very much in improv, and Alex, yours in stand-up. How happy is that marriage between those two things when it comes to like planning gigs? You guys have very clearly defined roles and organize those. So tell us a bit more about how those two things kind of live alongside each other at Jericho.
Yeah, well, I mean, we always did stand-up shows, like when we started in the colleges and stuff like that, and then I became heavily involved with the Oxford Imps, doing shows with them as a director and a producer. And then when I found sort of quite a lot of sort of restrictions or shows that people weren't up for doing, I just thought it best to essentially do those shows with my mates. Like there wasn't really enough sort of like fantasy or Harry Potter knowledge in the group at the time, and there wasn't also a desire to perform in weird and interesting venues. So we started off doing mock trial, which was an improvised court case in a courthouse, the Oxford Town Hall Courthouse. And then after that, started doing the show that must not be named, an improvised Harry Potter show.
It's a what?
Yeah, you wouldn't know from the title.
I thought it just couldn't be named. I thought you'd been lazy about it.
I'm sure there are some people out there who don't know Harry Potter and have no idea what the show is about. But for anybody who doesn't understand the name, Voldemort, the baddie in Harry Potter, is always referred to as he who must not be named. And because it's an improv show and we get people in the audience to suggest the title changes from show to show. And so it's quite a Harry Potter reference that it's called The Show That Must Not Be Named. So it gets given a different title every time. So it kind of arrived quite organically from a passion, having grown up with Harry Potter myself and other members of the group. We were in at the time the Imps, who also really liked Harry Potter, that we kind of just started doing shows. And then it was sort of my desire to always have us in interesting and weird spaces. So doing the shows, the court shows in a courthouse, doing the Harry Potter shows in bookshops and at the Story Museum. I think it's always worked. I think people know with a Jericho Comedy show they're going to have a good time, and that it's going to be either an interesting show because of the subjects that come up, either because of just how we book them, or it's a themed academic show, or because it's in an interesting space. I think that's one of the really clear things we have, and the way we've kind of built our brand by interesting shows and interesting places.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Harry, you did mention like the very beginnings when we got you guys started out doing Jericho Comedy together. You started out performing in colleges. So, Alex, tell us. I love this story. Tell us about the beginnings of Jericho Comedy.
It was a magical time. Very, very magical, and a long, long time ago. So long ago that Harry was a student.
When two comedy promoters love each other very much, and their comedy night is but a twinkle in their eye, they come together and do a special comedy hug, and get together and do some shows wherever they can. And it turns out that the first time, there were a lot of bad nights going on in Oxford. They weren't bad as such, but like they were good nights without necessarily like a good audience. So we decided to start doing them in the colleges.
Nights were struggling for numbers, and so the idea was, rather than ask people to come to you, you come to them. And so one of the quirks of living in Oxford is there's sort of a built-in audience. What is it, about 32 of them that all have a bar and they're all there, and so you pop into there, do it there. Simple. It's good.
And it was something like you guys decided very early on. I mean, so much of Jericho Comedy was kind of defined early on. Obviously, the tone of the nights. I'm assuming, having not been there at those first gigs, but I'm assuming Jericho wasn't a mean-spirited, confrontational, punching down kind of night at the beginning.
It was always a right-wing free speech, tell it like it is gig. We continue to be now, Connor.
We're still very proud to give a voice to those who already have a voice. But yeah, the Jericho Comedy has always been a really lovely gig. And Alex, when we were speaking to Jacob on the podcast way back in like episode 3, I think it was, Jacob made a really good point about some gigs taking on the characteristics of the people who run them. How much do you guys see your personalities reflected in Jericho Comedy shows?
A lot, yeah, definitely. I mean, I think we never sat down and had a conversation about the tone. We just sat down and knew that we wanted them to be for mental health. And I think when you know the money from the nights and the spirit of everyone being there is raising money for mental health, they're always going to be not mean-spirited and supportive. And so I think a lot of the tone of the night is because of that. It's because everyone there is supportive towards mental health and understanding, and sympathetic. But yeah, no, I definitely think there's an element of both of us in the shows that we run. And I think definitely in the tone of the way that we host the shows, being just more supportive. It was never a decision, but I think, because Alex and I host most of the nights, and Alex more so than I, the tone of the nights became our personalities, and largely Alex's: friendly, approachable, charming. I think that comes out in all of the shows that we do. And also because we're so passionate about it and building an audience, is we don't want people there to feel not safe and not having a good time. And a lot of slightly laddier comedy clubs are a bit more confrontational and aggressive. And I don't think, we never had a conversation about it, but I don't think that's ever what we wanted to build or what we wanted our nights to be. Yeah.
Alex, you obviously... we've spoken about the kinds of topics that you like to cover. And indeed, Jericho have a whole host of sister shows or kind of sub-shows under the Jericho banner that do deal with some of the kind of the more academic things that you're very interested in. I mean, obviously, Oxford has the reputation across the world as being a very academic city. The university defines so much of the culture here. And we do have that, as you said before, like inbuilt audience for those kinds of shows. But nobody else thought to do them. So what was it that gave you the idea to put on things like stand-up history and stand-up science and stand-up philosophy and literature and all these shows that we do? Where was the germ of the idea for those?
I suppose what do they say? You always write the book that you'd want to read. And so I like when you watch performers. A lot of my favorite performers often, normally implicitly, like have like something to say. I think that the set dressing of using the term stand-up philosophy or stand-up history or stand-up literature, like beneath the term, I think there's something that a lot of people want. And if it wasn't in Oxford, I would have termed it something slightly different. But I think people like comedy that's about stuff, right? I mean, it's there's definitely like a big audience for like jokes that are just one-liners, or some of the really like sillier clowning stuff and stuff that doesn't have, that's not really about anything, but it's really lovely, it's really enjoyable. But I think if you ask lots of people, there's a sort of a belief, isn't there, that good comedy, or all these cliches, tells it like it is, or like comments on society and stuff like that. And so basically people will come to a comedy night if you give it a flavor, right? If you tell people what it is. I say this all the time, right? If you were advertising a music night and you were like, hey man, come to my music night, your first question would be, well, what kind of music is it?
Yeah.
And then if you were like, oh, it's good music, you'd be like, oh great, yeah, what kind of good music? And you'd be like, oh, it's just the best, it's the music that's really good to listen to, you'll really enjoy listening to it. You'd be like, this man is insane. But we do that all the time with comedy, right?
Yeah.
I think that there are lots of nights chasing, particularly in the southeast, chasing audience with that model, that idea that phrases like "funny's just funny." Everyone's got a take. Everyone's got a particular thing that they're into. And I know that Saturday night is like a general night, but there are definitely like implicit ways that we kind of codify what it is. Right? It's in a cafe, right? That's different. Like implicitly, you're not going to be able to drink enough of the small bottles of beer in the first half to get trashed, right? The wine comes with cake. It's a different like vibe. And so there were implicit clues to about kind of what it is, right? I know that the charity aspect of those Saturday nights was a massive draw for many people, and not just because the audience like doing a good thing with the coin or whatever, but I think it's an implicit signal about what a night kind of stands for. That gets reflected in the emceeing and stuff like that. And like there's when people leave us reviews and stuff like that, there's a couple of reviews there that say things like, the MC asked me a question, I said I didn't want to answer, and he just moved on. That was so lovely. I don't know which one of us it was, could be neither one of us, but like that person clearly like valued whichever one of us spotted that she or he really wasn't into it. And I think there's ways of particularly crowd work, particularly in that small place, like doing it in a way that doesn't make you want to like run away, right? I think it's such a shame that crowd work's become associated almost exclusively with bullying. And like this is where you and I differ, Connor. Like I love going down to like the heckle nights and the gong shows and stuff like that. I love watching that. I love performing at that. I've definitely got that like in me. Battle comedy. Comedy is like comedian versus audience.
Yeah.
But like, it's not something that I think most people want.
It's a lot of audience members' idea of hell as well being spoken to, and that's why it is so important to be cool with that and not like zone in and make anybody uncomfortable. Like especially with these nights being for fundraising for mental health and highlighting the importance of a healthy relationship with mental health. Like I always kind of say to people when they come in and they're a bit reticent about sitting in the front row or whatever, like if you go away from a comedy show feeling worse than you did when you came in, like we've done our jobs very, very badly. Like people just want to feel good at these nights, and they always do.
Definitely. Well, you can always tell somebody's not been to one of our shows before if they come in and they talk to their mates and they're hesitant about sitting in the front row. is that's a very, very early giveaway that they've not been to one of our shows before.
That's
I
true.
actually follow up and ask now if they're like, oh, let's not sit in the front row. I turn and I say, you've not been to one of our shows before, have you? People eat hot lasagna off of their knees in the front row. It's a supportive, friendly night. We might chat to you, but it's because we genuinely take an interest in your lives and we want to build them into something funny. And if you don't want to chat and you don't enjoy that, then we're not going to try and decrease your enjoyment of our comedy show. We'll move on to somebody who does want to be spoken to.
Absolutely. And it risks sounding, I don't know, like maybe this risks sounding a bit schmaltzy or a bit disingenuous or like something we actually, feel like to be outwardly nice, we have to say. But genuinely, we have such good relationships with regular audience members, like people who love the night and come back and have supported us for years and years and years. And like they're our friends, the audience members who keep coming back. They're our friends, and that's unique, I think, for a comedy night. You don't get that at like bigger clubs and stuff, do you? I mean, I don't mean bigger in terms of reputation, because Jericho is obviously so well respected in the comedy world. But I mean, like in terms of, size and like the budget they have in their own premises and that kind of thing.
I think there's lots of comedy nights with this a kind of a similar kind of ethos, increasingly like so. And I think the more nights specialize, the more they become like diversified in what they do. Absolutely, the better. I just think that's real important, and it's a real basic thing to do. Mm-hmm. Harry, what do you think?
Yeah, I think caring about your audience is so important, and those other comedy clubs can give the impression that they don't. But yeah, I think Alex is right, and it's an interesting trend that it definitely seems to be most modern clubs are much more supportive. They care much more about diversity in terms of perspectives or the different people that they have on, of being supportive of new acts, and just generally as well having an ethos that is anti-abuse. So there's a difference between supporting your act to say whatever they like and a sort of free speech night, but the ethos of these new nights is one that, safe space is a term that's bandied around a lot, but if you can only get people laughing in an audience if they feel comfortable, if they feel relaxed, mm-hmm. And it's so important they feel that way. We want them to feel like we are their friends having a conversation down the pub. And when you go and have a conversation with your friend down the pub, chances are they're not turning around and calling you like a fucking idiot, It's not really the way you would have a conversation with your friend down the pub. If that's what stand-up is meant to be, sort of replicating, then I don't know whose people's mates were in the 1960s with stand-up, but that's not the kind of conversation I would have with my friends down the pub. It would be a conversation about ideas, and we'd make each other laugh with stories. And I think, ours is one of those nights, but there's definitely quite a few around with a growing ethos of being more supportive and friendly and less aggressive and slightly less laddie as well.
I like this a lot. That is hopefully a direction that comedy will continue to keep going in, because it just makes people feel good. I've been
talking a lot to Chelsea Burtby about this. Like, we often describe anything bad as being like laddish, right? We associate all like lad qualities with like aggression and like fear. Like, I want to rebalance this out. Like, I'm a lad. I like 8 lagers. Do you know what? I like nothing more than 8 lagers.
That's so specific, mate.
Do you know what? I have 9 and I start having a bad time. But like, it's about like knowing like what you're getting, right?
Yeah.
Like, if I sometimes, like with the gong shows or whatever, sometimes I like to go down to a more combative environment. It's all about knowing what you're getting.
Yeah.
And you don't want to have like, you don't want to accidentally walk into like a roast battle. Do you know what I mean, right? You want to know what you're doing. You want to know that you're going to that. You don't want to like have a roast comic like do the audience if what you were expecting was, I don't know, in Oxford, like Monty Python. I don't know. It's very like, a few like sketches or something. I just think it's so important that people know what they're getting. And for some reason, we've forgotten that it's important in comedy. The other thing to mention as well is like audience members don't know anything. like you asked earlier, like, how do you balance improv and the stand-up nights? Like how do you differentiate between the two? I don't think we really do, because an audience member doesn't look at a night and go, "Ooh," or they don't sit down and go, "You know what? I fancy a bit of American-style improvised comedy sports. I'd like it to have." I'd like it to be long form rather than short form. Like people are like, you know what I want to do? I want to go out for something funny, and the comedians are awful at forgetting what it's like to be an audience member. Podcasts like these, we're awful at it for thinking like, everybody's like obsessed with like comedy craft as like either an academic study or like a nerd pursuit, right?
Yeah.
Like audience members kind of think that all funny is the same. Like I certainly did. Like I remember not having any difference between knowing what stand-up versus sketch was, or like I think it's all the same. And like we should be better at knowing this as comedians, because we get booked for mad stuff all the time, right? Like during lockdown, or actually during post-lockdown. Suddenly, like all sorts of things were like coming out of the works, right? I don't know, did I tell you guys that I took a phone call? Jericho got a phone call from a really nice person, but it was like a solicitor's in Oxford.
What?
Like, yeah, do you want to just really? I can't emphasize how nice this person was, but how like they had no idea what they really wanted. It was like, yeah, so it's a networking meeting.
Oh,
I was
God.
like, fine, that's great. And you want like an online performance with it? It was like, yeah. We'd like the MC just to talk to everybody. I was like, well, yeah, I can do that. Would you like me to do like material? When would it be? Would everybody be sitting down to watch it and then they'd network? And it's like, well, I just thought you'd be sort of in the room, like doing your thing individually on Zoom. I'm
God,
that's nuts. That's absolutely mad.
So they'd be in the room.
So everybody would be networking, but I'd just be, or even if it wasn't me, whoever Jericho Comedy finds to do this Herculean task.
Wait, so it's like close-up magic, but close-up close-up stand-up?
Yeah, like one-to-one online like stuff.
you're just waiting kind of in the corner of a room until you hear one word that's used in one of your gags, and then you go, "Oh, sorry,
Yeah,
did I hear someone say Bible there?"
And I know there'll be people listening at home thinking, "Oh, well, that's fine. What
There will be.
What's wrong with that?" In the early days, one of my first like corporates, I was booked by the Historical Novel Society to do again just some comedy, right? I don't know what they were after, right?
Oh my
and
God.
again, it was another like it was Harry saying close-up magic. They wanted me to go table to table, and like do my thing, and I was like, well, I mean, I need £500.
I need to be compensated for the trauma this is going to cause in me, because this is weird and awkward. Yeah.
So what I did was I dressed up as a jester, Historical Novel Society. I happened at the time to have a penny farthing. I was like, well, at least I look. I was like, I'm going to get paid for this. I must look like I'm doing comedy. So I cycled in this big old dinner in London between these tables. And then, I can do a bit of magic. And so I do a bit of magic and then a bit of banter. And then, like mad things. It was really clownish. I had Bernard Cornwell sign a banana that was down my trousers. Like, I was looking for stuff and I hadn't prepared well enough. Do you remember Brick Phone? Did you ever see me do Brick Phone?
No.
Brick Phone was it was a hangover from the second time I ever did comedy.
Was it an actual brick?
Mate, big time. So basically, in my bag of like
Jesus,
jester tricks, I had a Brick Phone. Do you know my origin? Have I told you my origin story as a stand-up? No, I'm not going to do it now. That's a boring.
Yes, you are.
It's essentially, initially, this is true to my laddish nature. I was doing stand-up purely for the dares and for like the buzz and the lols. I had no intention of being a comedian. Absolutely not. My best friend Will and I thought, you know what would be really funny? It'd be great to pretend to be a stand-up comedian. So we found the only open mic that would have us. I think we paid £4 for the privilege of doing it.
God.
Anyway, neither of us had any material. Go up on stage, blah, 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 blah. Pretty funny. Second time we did it again like 6 or 7 months later. And we were like, wasn't that really funny when we like pretended to do stand-up comedians with no material? Incidentally, on this particular night, you couldn't really tell we were very different. Anyway, doesn't mean that we did well. But we were like, it was the thrill of it, the buzz. Oh, it was so scary. It was, funny to be pretending to do it. But the thrill of it had worn off. It was, we've been there, done that. And so the new game we came up with was, how about we write each other the wackest, most rubbish jokes we can, and then make the other person perform them. Anyway, I go up on stage with these awful... It wasn't like... We weren't supposed to do like hateful materials, like no racism, no sexism. It just had to be like whack. I remember I had a series of Batman jokes. My opener, I only remember the opener that Will gave me. It was this. Have you ever noticed that Alex Salmond sounds like a salmon? And then I had to be a salmon for a bit. It was absolutely humiliating. Like, even at the standards of that particular open mic night, this stuff sucked. All you could hear was my mate Will, just as I looked at the next thing, horrible, getting increasingly worse. Anyway, by the end of it, nobody was heckling at this night. By the end of my set, people were like, "You're shit."
Oh, God.
Shit. And then, I had some Batman stuff to close, I seem to remember. Anyway, really sucked. Obviously, it's very funny to watch your friend have to do that, right? Really, really, really whack. And then I send Will on, 82 comics later, this London open mic. Anyway, I give him this briefcase of stuff, and I'm just like, follow the instructions. Anyway, I've taped a phone to a brick. So I call him from the back of the gig. He's really good at it. He pulls the aerial up on the brick that I've taped to it. He's really good on it. And I'm just like, tell him you're bricking up, wall to wall, like brick phone. I basically guide him on the stage through all these props. The big closer is a hi-fi, which I spent like £16 on, like double D battery that I was making work. And it's got taped to it a pot of jam. And it's like, play the song, do the dance. And he did an absolutely great job. Plays it. It's Bob Marley's jamming. Smears himself with jam. Anyway, the final twist and where I end this story is he absolutely fucking kills it. People love him. Like, he's absolutely taken the roof off because it's so mad, like, so unexpected. Anyway, he comes on stage. People are like, "Oh, mate, that's so good." There's a video of it somewhere. It's like, "I want to, it's the best we've ever had," all that sort of stuff. And, I'm sidling over, being like, "Oh, yeah, like, I wrote that." And like, "Yeah, sure. All right, Alex Salmond." I'm like, "No, I did. Anyway, and so I tried to replicate brick phone for my first corporate gig. I've talked way too long.
I have loved this. And I want you to promise right here, right now in the Jericho Comedy Podcast that we will get to see Brick Phone at Jericho Comedy. Our first night back in the cafe, maybe not the first night. Maybe not the first night. Let's do a really good show the first night.
Oh, that's outrageous. I've already promised somebody I'm going to bring back the toast routine.
Yes!
That was Ed Patrick who reminded me about that.
Very breakfast food themed show back that we're going to be doing.
I used to be different, man.
Mr. Saturday Night used to be Mr. Sunday Morning.
Maybe we should do a brunch themed show at the cafe. They do an excellent brunch.
Oh, that would be brilliant. It would also mean we wouldn't have to take all the gear down on a Saturday night. Just leave it as it is for Sunday morning. Guys, I have to ask about Oxfordshire Mind. Over the last
You sound like that's a bad thing. It's like, I really don't want to do it, but I have to do it.
Dan Knowles has a gun to my back.
We've been trying to take this for years. They've just somehow psychologically manipulated us into raising money for them for such a long period of time.
You guys have done such amazing things, raising over £70,000 for Oxfordshire Mind in the last 4.5 years. Why did you guys decide when you started doing these shows? Why was it Oxfordshire Mind that were the lucky chosen ones?
Well, we made a list of all of the charities that we wanted to do it for. And that was largely started by the fact that we were thinking about running the nights for charity. We didn't want to run a free show. We wanted to make sure that the audience had some sort of buy-in, so they didn't just walk out if they didn't enjoy the show. We were very new, so were some of the other comics. We wanted to make sure that they were financially invested in not leaving at half-time. And we wanted to, make sure it was for a charity. So we sort of wrote down a kind of Venn diagram of Oxford residents, town in one circle, and Oxford students performing to, gigs in the colleges for charity. And we wrote down all of the problems that are common between people in Oxford and Oxford students. And the list was one. It was mental health. It was Oxford Your Mind. There was literally no other charity on that list. I think we both variously have strong feelings about mental health as a cause as well, just whether or not it's, talking about our own. Well, I don't think either of us have ever been diagnosed with any anxieties or kind of actually any mental health problems, but definitely struggle with anxiety and mental health from time to time. And I've got lots of friends who have had a lot of problems with mental health and depression throughout their life. So I think it was something we felt very strongly about. And we knew that our audience, the people of Oxford and students in colleges would as well. So, it was. I do remember literally sitting down and making a list on one of Alex's exercise books. And that was it. It was Oxford Your Mind. So it was a pretty clear-cut decision from the off. And, it's been that way pretty much ever since.
When you mentioned the exercise book, it makes it sound like I set you like a task. I was like, Harry, question 1. From these charities, the one that would most suit this Venn diagram.
You're working out in the margins, yeah. Well, Alex, you guys speak very, very funnily about how Oxford Your Mind weren't necessarily aware that you were fundraising for them at the beginning.
Yeah, because we didn't tell them. We sort of didn't tell them for 2 years. We just rock up with a check and be like, we've got this for you.
But when they realised that you were doing this, the relationship with them really strengthened.
Yeah. We always the same with anything, isn't it? Like when you get to know a great team, raising money for a great cause, it's cool. It's great.
Tell us how that relationship did develop, because obviously you went from these nights in colleges to, like earlier this year, selling 1,200 tickets in a for a single day of comedy at the Oxford Playhouse. That's a huge leap.
The three of us is I will be like, right, let's put on a small comedy show in 8 rooms. I think this is a great idea. And everybody I tell this to is like, why not? No, why not just put everybody in one big room? And I'm like, well, actually, it's more intimate. Yeah. The same performer can do multiple sets. It means that no room is ever empty because they're all small rooms and full. And so when we were doing gala type fundraising, what was it? Would we do 5 rooms in that day?
Yeah, so we essentially managed to get. Yeah, we had turned up for a couple of years with a check at the Oxford Your Mind office, and then kind of after 2 years, I think, of turning up with a check, we then had a bit more of a formal relationship, or just kind of kept in touch a bit. We sort of asked them if they'd be up for doing a slightly bigger gig at the old fire station. They seemed up for it. We managed to get James Acaster, Ivo Graham and Rachel Paris to do the show. We also had Ken Cheng, Chelsea Burtby, Alex and myself. And basically, off the back of those names, the tickets just sold out so quickly that we then, like we always do for all of the shows, and yes, somewhat driven by Alex, but also just what we do from now on really is, why stop selling tickets if you can stop selling tickets? If you can make more money for Mind, keep adding rooms. So we did. We sold out the main room of the old fire station really quickly, like several months before the show. So we added the other 2 rooms in the old fire station, the studio and the attic upstairs. And then we sold those really quickly, I think even 2 months before the show. So we added a couple of matinee shows at the cafe and the tavern, which is where our picture on our Facebook cover comes from. It's James Acaster downstairs in the Jericho Cafe. Yeah, we just thought, if we can make more money from Mind and add more rooms, let's keep doing that. And then I think it just went so well that blue sky thinking with a drink after the show in the 4 Candles opposite the old fire station, CEO of Oxford Your Mind, Dan Knowles, and us, we sort of went, well, that sold really well. Do you reckon we could do something like the Playhouse? And Dan was like, yeah, let's do it. I have no idea how much he'd had to drink at that point. But then later on in proper meetings, he was like, yeah, let's do it. I think it's remarkable for a charity like Oxfordshire Mind to have so much faith in community fundraisers and to have so much support in community fundraisers that it wasn't just something he said in the pub. He was like, yes, let's hire the Playhouse. And then we did. And now it's kind of a yearly thing. But yeah, Mind have been so fantastic to work with and so supportive. But yeah, they just go, great, let's hire the Playhouse. And we've been lucky to get some really great names, like Nish Kumar did that first one in the Playhouse. Yeah, they've been an utter joy to work with from start to finish. And I think we'll always work with them in some capacity.
Well, they would also say the same of you. I know that they are so fond of you guys and so grateful for all the work that you guys have done to help them fundraise. Speaking of which, Oxfordshire Mind, we got a little clip of them talking about some of their brilliant services that they're able to do thanks to, in part, the amazing work you guys have done. So here they are, Oxfordshire Mind, have a listen to this.
Are you caring for someone and struggling to cope?
Suffering with low mood or feeling anxious?
Experiencing discrimination and not sure of your options?
You are not alone. Did you know that you can ask to speak to an Oxfordshire Mind wellbeing worker through your local GP practice? A wellbeing worker can help you to identify what is important to you, offer time, space and support for you to work out the positive changes you want to make and support you to reach those goals. Tell you about relevant services you can access to improve your wellbeing and support you with making referrals. Our service is currently available over the phone to anyone registered with a participating GP practice in the City and South West Oxfordshire. For more information, please ask at your GP practice or call the Oxfordshire Mind information line on 01865 247 788.
All right, gents, we've been having a lovely time. Nice little chat amongst ourselves, having a laugh, but the fun officially stops here. It's now time for the bit that everyone dreads. It's pressing questions. I'm going to ask you guys a series of almost impossibly difficult questions, and all I need from you are some honest answers. Can you do that for me?
Yes, I am assuming that they are all questions about how to press and get juices from various fruits.
That is a sub-game that we will play off-air. Question 1 is for Harry Househam.
I've not consented to this game yet. Ask me if I want to play.
I speak for both of us. We established that at the beginning of the podcast. We're both on board.
And so,
I'd like to reaffirm that Harry speaks to me on this game as well.
now that we've got everybody's consent, let's get into this. Harry Househam, when's the last time you had your hair cut?
It was maybe 2 months ago. My mother is a hairdresser. I am tight. I'm so tight. I mean that with money. I repeated that far too many times and it sounded much dirtier than I thought it would. My mum cuts my hair from time to time and I did not want to risk the life of a stranger to cut my hair. However, my mum literally moved house today, so I have not been able to have my hair cut in about 2 months and it's getting scraggly. So about 2 months ago.
That is a very good answer. Alex Farrow, what's your earliest memory of disappointment?
Oh my word.
Yeah, reading that question back, I kind of wish I hadn't written it, but here we are.
My first memory of disappointment would have been July 2015, seeing Conor McReynolds' first gig at the Jericho Tavern. Oh man, that guy stank!
No one is disputing that.
That you know that's untrue. Actually, I was immensely surprised when you'd whittle down that PDF booklet of like 1,000 pages. Do you still have that booklet? That booklet was so big, man. There was so much stuff in there.
What Alex is referring to is, as an aspiring comedian, I never wanted to lose the premise of a joke. So I used to write every single premise down, and I made the fatal error before I once went to write with Alex very, very early on. of showing him the chart that I'd made of a table color-coded green, orange, and red. Green, good ideas. Orange, maybe something to work with there. Red, bad. And I'd organized all of my potential premises into this chart. And Alex was like, this is the work of a serial killer. And it was mental. But yeah, I still have that somewhere.
So
I don't use it as much anymore.
It was very unusual that you've color-coded the material. That was very unusual. It was very unusual that there was a chart involved. That was very unusual. The thing that still strikes me so much was just like how much of it you'd printed off. You couldn't, if we'd done nothing other than you reading it out loud all day, we wouldn't have even begun to like scratch the surface of it. There's so much there, man.
Yeah, there was a hell of a lot.
You would hate on it. You would read out a bit and be like, oh, no, shit. And then like read out something else, and I'd be like, slow down, buddy. Look, number one, let's stick to the green stuff, which you deem to be good.
I need to see this. I want to see all of the red stuff. Why would you put that in a PDF if you didn't think it was good enough? Why would you save the .doc to .pdf if you didn't like any of the red stuff? Take it out of the document before you save to PDF.
It is absolutely mad. Harry, I promise I will show you that. But now we remember, now we know Alex's first experience of disappointment was when he saw my chart of bad ideas. Harry Househam, would you be starstruck if you met the Pixar lamp in real life?
Yes, I would be starstruck, quite literally, because it's a lamp. It emits light, so I would be struck by the light. I think if you're going to be starstruck by anyone, it should be literal stars, bright shining lights, spotlights. I'm trying to think of any celebrities that have a name that is named after some sort of star. I do not know enough about...
I could give you Gary Glitter, but that's not okay.
Let's not go there.
Well, there we go. What would you want to ask the Pixar lamp if you met it in real life?
Did it know the letter it would jump on was going to be squishy before it jumped, or did it just take the risk?
That is an excellent question. Alex Farrow, what's been your best year so far?
You seem to ask very frivolous questions, Harry.
I was going to say, all of the ones to Alex are very psychological, like he's on the couch, and mine are like, if you're a dog, what kind of breed of dog would you be?
Connor, I know why you're doing this. Whenever we're talking about mental health, I'm always like, do you know what? I feel very lucky. Actually, I've never really had a job with my mental health. Which actually makes it really awkward when people ask, well, why do you raise money for mental health charities? Basically, they want my story. And it's like, well, I'm kind of okay. You know, everybody's got ups and downs. I'm kind of all right. And you're
so you think that this is a very
it.
public and very malicious attempt at me to get you to finally admit that you've got problems with your mental health?
Well,
that's dark.
While simultaneously filling out like a Vanity Fair quiz for my preferences on like what kind of star I'm meant to be.
Yeah, what chocolate bar is Harry and what's the meaning of life for Alex? That's the two different quizzes that we're playing here. Alex, what's been your best year so far?
Thought you could dodge the question, Mr. Politician.
All years of my life have been equally good or bad. I feel nothing. There we go.
We are going to do a sub-episode, and it's going to be called I Feel Nothing with Alex Farrow. That is an incredible way to end that question. All right, Harry, using the 6 degrees of separation theory, what would be your 6-step connection to Academy Award winner Leonardo DiCaprio?
Leonardo DiCaprio. Oh, it's a good question. I've got it. I've absolutely got it.
Oh, brilliant.
I went to visit my family in Crieff the other day, who they're my dad's cousin, Caroline, is married to Charlie, an oat farmer in Crieff, Scotland. I think his cousin is married to, or knows, Christopher Nolan, who has obviously filmed with Leonardo DiCaprio in Inception. So, bang, Leonardo DiCaprio, there we go, in maybe 5 steps?
That is very impressive. Only 5 steps. Extraordinary
how
stuff.
Does being only 5 steps away from Leonardo DiCaprio make you feel about your childhood? How does that work?
All right, Alex Farrow, here's another hard-hitting question for you. Put these animals in order of cuteness. Puppies, kittens, baby bunny rabbits, or ducklings?
Baby rabbits are also called kittens. I'm just weighing in here on being massively pedantic.
What?
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Baby
put
rabbits-
these in order of cuteness. Puppies, kittens, or ducklings?
I think... I was once told that I looked a little bit like a duckling.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know...
By who? A duck-based expert? Who are we talking
Alex,
here?
what you've done yourself here is take a very easy, fluffy question and make it complicated emotionally and psychologically. That's on you, buddy.
I said I was once accused of looking like a duckling. But now...
Because you're a beautiful swan. All right, yeah.
No.
Oh, you weren't going there.
I wasn't going there.
Oh.
So this is true. Somebody did once say I looked like a duckling, and it was very confusing. I think it was a very clumsy bit of flirtation.
Oh.
Yeah, 'cause that's a weird thing to... You shouldn't really describe anybody who you're trying to seduce as looking like an animal, because what you're really saying is you really want to fuck a duck. Like, ooh, fuck you, lady. Don't be doing that. Don't let that person near foxes. Let them roam free.
I realise now that if I say a pun, it's going to look like I've made all this up for a really like rubbish pun. But like the way to complete this joke would be, although this actually happened to me, I was accused of looking like a duckling, but I'm sure that guy was a quack. I don't know. Like I feel like I had to get that punchline out. Genuinely. Still, you know when something gets in your brain and you never really stop thinking about it, and there's no way to ever resolve that because it's just there. Yeah, at the time someone said I looked like a duckling.
I don't think you look like a duckling, but...
Screw you, man. I'm beautiful. I'm
All
very
right.
cute.
Here's the writing challenge as per your first show, Alex. You've got to write an Edinburgh show called Duckling. It's all about ducks and why you look like a duckling. That's it. Duckling.
About once every month, Harry will set me a write an Edinburgh show challenge.
What was the last one? The last one was really good. I think it was All Mother No Fucker.
Yeah. A write show called All Mother No Fucker. It's going to be a very difficult show for me to write. The other one you told me to write was
All Suck
All
No
Suck, No
Fuck.
Fuck.
All Suck No Fuck is the title of that show because it sounds like the most hack, horrible hour, and I like the idea that Alex has to make it somehow very interesting, and I really want to see what philosophers make it in there. Which philosophers are stuck and which philosophers are fuck. That's what I want to know. Asking the important questions.
So there we go, listener. Now you know which animal Alex thinks is cutest.
Ducks.
Ducks, there we go. Harry Househam, the founder of Match.com, a man called Gary Creeman, lost his girlfriend to a man that she met on Match.com. How do you think Gary felt about that?
I think probably, hoist by his own petard. I believe there is actually a Wikipedia page for the expression hoist by your own petard, and that is listed on there, as is the CEO of Segway segwaying off of a cliff, which I don't think is ironic because he was the CEO of Segway. He wasn't the maker or like the founder of Segway. I feel it's very unfair. He held an honorary position. Anyway, this is a random weird rant about Segways. I think probably a mixture of pride and shame. He didn't want to lose his wife, but it's got to feel weirdly sweet that he's like, oh shit, my company's so good at matching people that my wife found somebody even better for her than me. The man she promised in front of all of her friends was the one for her. So, I mean, like, if I were him, I would have splashed that all over the website, man. It'd be on my business cards. Dating recommendations so good, my own wife left me for somebody she met on Match.com.
Match.com for cucks. I think we need to address his name. What was his name? Gary Creeman.
Cream? Oh, I don't think we should address the name.
I don't think any man called Gary Creaming should have anything to do with any dating process at all.
Disagree. He should have just called it Creeman.com. Creeman.com. One way or another, you'll be Creeman.com.
Oh, I'm going to have nightmares this evening.
Good luck editing this. This has been the filthiest podcast yet.
This really has.
It really has.
I expected you two to be
So
on
much
better behavior. All right. Final question is for Alex Farrow. If your sat-nav could be voiced by anyone, living or dead, who would you choose?
I think I would choose you, Connor. I think you have a deeply, deeply calming and soothing voice. I think it is both authoritative yet lovely to listen to. I think that I would be a much less aggressive driver if you were doing it. If that sounds too like bigging you up, part of the reason would be your pace. You have a very, very low pace of stand-up. You have a man who could do 3 minutes of my stand-up, and it would take you the whole damn step. And you'd make a great sat-nav because it would keep me calm and soothed, and it would remind me of my excellent friend Connor.
You'd make a great sat-nav. Does sound like an insult, like you've got a face for radio. Like I like that format of it. Like, you would make a good sat-nav because you drive me around the bend.
One problem I'm noticing with what you say about the pace at which I speak, would it not be an issue that you're like, which exit do I take in the roundabout? And I'd be like, so when you get to the roundabout, you'd be like, hurry up! Come on, just tell me.
I just have to drive a bit slower. Great for the fuel economy.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well then, if any of the big companies are listening, Tom, you know where to find me.
Is that his name? Is that the person who runs TomTom? Is his last name also Tom?
Thomas Thompson.
Like...
Yeah.
Tom Thompson.
Thomas Thompson. Tom. Also, it was a total accidental pun when I said you know where to find me. But I'm glad that it happened. Well, listen, guys, we have had such a great time this summer being outdoors on boats, drive-ins, in fields, on farms, in distilleries, everything. We're going to be at the North Wall Arts Centre over the autumn. We've got some really exciting shows to announce, but if you simply can't wait and if you're really missing that feeling of being indoors at Jericho Comedy, hearing our wonderful comedians, well, get yourself a drink, turn the volume up, and enjoy a little bit of Mr. Saturday Night himself, Alex Farrow, performing live at Jericho Comedy. Here he is!
More stuff about college, man. For a college that talked about the British value of democracy on every wall, the students didn't really know very much about it. Part of the way I wanted to deal with it was as a philosophy teacher, teach about it, and teach about its history and its origins. I remember teaching a class, and I said, class, democracy is amazing. Democracy is over 2,400 years old. And this kid, Alfie, put his hand up, he went, no, it's not. I was like, oh, wow, that's amazing. That's incredible. I was like, oh, maybe Alfie's been doing some of his research. Maybe he knows that ancient Greek democracy, it didn't include women, so it can't be a real democracy. I was like, oh, fantastic, this is great. I was like, I used Socratic questions. I was like, Alfie, that's incredible. I'd never thought of that before. Why isn't democracy over 2,400 years old? And he looked me directly in the eye because, sir, there's only been 2,018 years. Fuck! Right? This kid's 16, he might vote someday. Soon, right? Anyway, you can't just shout out fuck, you get fired that way. So what you do is you go, well, that's very interesting. And if you ever hear somebody saying, that's very interesting, they're a teacher, they're really struggling. And they just say it a lot. It's Philip. Anyway, that's very interesting, Alfie, but surely we're forgetting about BC. What about BC? He's like, oh, what does BC mean, sir? What does BC mean? Well, it just means before Christ. He's like, well, that's where you're wrong, sir. Jesus Christ, he never existed. I was like, that's very interesting. I happen not to believe in Jesus Christ myself. But have you ever met somebody who's gone so far into non-belief about Christianity that they've become a young Earth creationist? Right? Ever met that? Yeah, that's what we're dealing with in the schools, man. If you don't know young Earth creationism, it's just the belief that God made the world in 7 days. He met the world on Monday. He took it for a drink on Tuesday. He was making love to the world on Wednesday. And on Thursday and Friday and Saturday, he chilled on Sunday, man. Cool, man. That is, of course, our Lord, our Saviour, Craig David. And if you don't know Craig David, let me fill you in. Craig David... I can see some of this as your flavour. Just tell me what your flavour is. I could... Oh, there's more. Nah, that's cool, man. Craig David, famously in the song 7 Days, weirdly based on Genesis for reasons I don't fully know. In that song, he meets a girl on Monday, fantastic. He's having sex on Wednesday, brilliant. But for reasons I don't fully understand, respects the Sabbath and stops fucking on Sunday, right? When he chills, right? When he chills. When I was growing up, listening to Craig David, to chill meant to not have sex, right? But I'm told that the meaning of that word's changed a little bit. Has anybody unchilled? Has anybody Netflixed and chilled recently? Manolos, have you Netflixed and chilled?
Wouldn't be polite to say.
Yeah, oh, but the way you say it wouldn't be polite to say. I'm going to say, Manolos, it's the sexiest thing I've ever heard. Oh, it wouldn't be polite to say, but I would kiss, but I'd never talk. Oh, I feel quite warm, Manolos. And I noticed the lady next to you is grabbing you very firmly now. That's fine, man, that's fine. Anyway, I'll tell you, if you don't know what to Netflix and chill means, it means to have sex. I'll tell you who else doesn't know that. Oxford Council, where you all live, yeah, who are written on the side of their buses, bus in and chill! Bus in and chill! Just to be down with the kids. It's the dirtiest thing I've ever seen in public, and it's funny. Anyway, so I'm a teacher. I'm trying to help out. Oxford City Council. I should always do this. Anybody in for the council? Fuck it, great. Anyway, right, I've been trying to help them out. I've been tweeting in between things like, bussin' and chill, where everybody gets a ride, and they tweet back. They're like, absolutely, Alex_Farrow. All our services are open to the whole community. Shit. Bussin' and chill, where every stop you can get off. Absolutely, Alex_Farrow. All our services are operating as usual. Bussin' and chill, where you can tip the driver. Just the tip. And then Oxford City Council blocks you. And you realise you probably shouldn't use the school Twitter account.
Peas and Carrots, Rogers and Hammerstein, Cummings and Barnard Castle, Househam and Farrow. Some things are just the perfect partnerships, but even in the most perfect of partnerships, sometimes there are disagreements. And this is true even of the two of you. In fact, there's been one issue that's been a source of significant tension in the Jericho Comedy ranks all summer, and we're going to resolve it right here, right now, on the Jericho Comedy Podcast. After a busy summer of shows, we're all thinking of, taking a little break away somewhere nice. And Harry Househam passionately and fervently believes that city breaks are the ideal getaway. But Alex Farrow, he's a beach holiday guy all the livelong day. Can't get enough of those sun loungers. So, we're going to have it out right here, right now. Gents, you're going to have 60 seconds to make an argument for your preferred holiday, and then you'll have 30 seconds to respond. Does that sound good?
Yes.
All right. Well, Alex Farrow...
You don't care what I think. You never check. What if I have an opinion?
I like how you just waited for that. You just waited for him to ask, to pounce on him.
This is brilliant. This is excellent. I think we finally found the thing that makes Alex angry. I've been wondering all this time. Alex Farrow, you're going to go first. If you consent, of course. You are going to spend the next 60 seconds telling us why beach holidays are better than city breaks. Are you ready to go?
Big time, brother.
Let's do it. Starting now.
I believe that beach holidays are the best, but they have to be a very specific form of beach holiday. It has to be the beach holiday as told in the Leonardo DiCaprio film The Beach. Apocalyptic nightmare where we learn specifically a story told by Thomas Hobbes Best, that we are all living in a thin veil, that society is but a scraped thin layer of butter on a toast of pain. Essentially, all that we hold dear around us could be taken away from us. And essentially, we all need to be reminded about how life is nasty, brutish, and short. And that, I believe, is why we should all go on a beach holiday. Yeah. I just shoehorned in a bit of philosophy there. It's kind of what I did there. I think it's important. It's on brand for me.
You've got 5 more seconds. What about nice drinks?
Beach, go beach. Beach.
Please write the advertising instead of "Are you beach body ready?" Go beach, beach, go beach.
It's going to be a very difficult argument to dismantle, but Harry Househam, you have 60 seconds to tell us why beach isn't the best holiday. You're a fan of city breaks. You have 60 seconds to tell us why, starting now.
Ever had sand in your butt crack? Ever found little bits of, what is sand but grit and dirt in your genitals? That's right, you have. You know where? At the beach. Yeah? Dry salt in the corner of your mouth, all around your body, drying out your skin. That is the beach. Also, you know what? I don't like the beach that much. By all means, if I had a beach to myself, but the reason why I don't like the beach is because there's too many people at the beach. We've seen a lot of that with kind of like people rushing to the beaches these days. Everybody just sat down, basically naked. You can see more flesh on the beach than you can see sand. And people it just looks like those nature documentaries with seals all around the place. I don't want to be around naked people at any point. I can barely fathom me being naked with a mirror in the room, let alone strangers sweating and swimming all around. No, city breaks are the place for me. Non-stop content and entertainment.
And that is your time, Harry. Extraordinary that 4 seconds before the end of your minute was the first time you mentioned a city break.
Yeah, I'm more anti-beach than I am pro-city.
Well, Alex Farrow, you have 30 seconds now to dismantle that 5 seconds of pro-city break material that Harry just threw out there. You have 30 seconds. It starts now.
Harry, I heard a lot of things said just now. I'm going to read out some of those things that you said.
Thanks, Dr. Phil.
Sand in my butt crack. Too much flesh. It's like a nature documentary. I don't want to be naked.
Is that a haiku? Did
Harry,
you turn it into a haiku?
Do you not like beaches? Or do we need to talk about sex? Do you need to talk, Harry? Are you repressing something?
No.
That is 30 seconds. I genuinely don't know which direction this debate's going to go, and I have to decide a winner in 30 seconds' time. Harry, you've got 30 seconds to respond to what Alex just said. Your time starts now.
Yeah, I don't feel going to the beach and having sex with somebody you've chosen consensually is comparable. The people on the beach, you don't get to select who those people are. You don't get to take them on dates where you vet them and make sure they're not going to hurt you. They are just random people on the beach. If sex is like going to the beach for you, Alex, it suggests there are tens of hundreds of people present when you have sex.
Yeah, you know it, baby. All right.
A lot more salt than I think is healthy. Please consult a doctor. And a lot more grit and sand than should be present during sex. I'm a very clean
that is
person.
your time. Okay. So, the original debate was, which is better? A beach holiday or a city break? At the end, I think the debate was, well, it was a couple of things. It was, is Harry talking about having sex or going to the beach? Or does Alex have sex in front of lots of people? Or is he just going to the beach? I genuinely don't know who won that. But that's anticlimactic. So I'm going to say the beach lost because nobody said anything really good about the beach. Even Alex, you were all beach and you were talking about it being pain and misery.
Yes, but that is good sometimes. It was the beach as a learning opportunity.
Classic
you know what?
teacher.
The result of this debate is just everyone stay at home, follow government guidelines, don't go to a city or the beach. That's the most anticlimactic ending to that debate I really hoped for. Comedy wins! Yeah!
Woo!
Gents, it is always a pleasure to chat to you about all the things we've discussed during this podcast. Quickly, tell us some things that lovely Jericho Comedy audiences can get excited about over the next few weeks.
Yeah, we've sold out the show this Saturday, which this will go out after that. But the North Wall are letting us do some more shows. So on the 17th and the 24th of October, Saturdays, we are doing shows at the North Wall Arts Centre. And then after that, we have got 2 shows at the Oxford Playhouse booked in. On the 7th of November is Drag Prov, improvised drag musical comedy. And on the 5th of December, the show that must not be named, Harry Potter Improv Show, is coming to the Playhouse. That's the 5th of December. Yeah, that's everything in the book so far, and we will be confirming some more shows coming up soon. But for that, you're going to have to like us on Facebook and check the website.
Harry Househam, Alex Farrow, it is always a pleasure to speak to you, wonderful gentlemen, and I'll speak to you again soon.
See you soon.
See you in an hour, Connor.
Yes. See you at dinner. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Always a pleasure to speak to Alex and Harry. Those guys have worked so hard to build Jericho up into the club that we all love, and they care so much about Jericho audiences, Oxfordshire Mind, and bloody good comedy. I could chat to them all day about those things. Give the guys a follow on social media, but more importantly, if you haven't followed Jericho Comedy on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, sort yourself out. Links to all those accounts in the episode description. We've got some really fun gigs coming up over the next few weeks as well. We're going to be back in Headington at the Cheney School for a few weeks over the autumn, raising money for Oxfordshire Mind. We're at the North Wall in October on the 17th and 24th, and we'll be announcing more exciting shows very soon. We'd be really grateful if you'd use the link in the episode description to visit our fundraising page for Oxfordshire Mind. As we said in the episode, we've raised over £70,000 in the last few years to support their vital work, and we'd be really, really grateful if you would consider sending a few pounds. If you've enjoyed this podcast or any Jericho shows over the summer, we'd be just so grateful if you would consider giving Oxfordshire Mind a little bit of money as way of thanks. Check back in next week on the Jericho Comedy Podcast when I'll be chatting to another fantastic Jericho Comedy performer. Until then, thanks so much for listening and bye-bye.